Alright, Jefferson. Got a lot of few things on the evidences. So, I've just got a lot of few things right here though. The only things I've saw here, that's everything I've done. That's all here. Right, what I was thinking is now, Jefferson, that for some reason that it doesn't belong to the other side. So, I hope I'm just gonna make sure if it's safe or something. So we got a lot of few things going on here, but we understand how this is going to work. It'll work on the other side. So we don't think we were doing it at the next term, doesn't it? Well, actually, Brandon, well, I'm proud of you, but you did the right thing, actually. Because eventually, it's not the real thing to ask, but well, we got loads of evidences to see how these is gonna work. Tell you what, Brandon, but the first time I have ever asked, but you, but did the right thing. But basically, I don't think it's gonna reach in our minds. So what I was thinking of, that it doesn't really matter what it takes. It doesn't take anything to survive, but not exactly though. But you did the right thing actually, but eventually, Brandon, I think you should get you a job. When I was thinking that it's not the real thing, of course, because just as I say, but it doesn't really matter, but you are a detective. The world's greatest detective, Brandon Haxon. Detective Police, Brandon Haxon. Well, we'll put you on a display board without Gary. Actually, he got busted before when he got out and drove his car and got crashed. But it's just the pursuit combat, but it's just only his pursuit. But don't mind him, but you don't know what's going on about him, do you? Alright. I didn't see Gary before, but he was the police detective. But why is he was arrested? Why is he arrested for? But why he was arrested for? What's he done? He hasn't done anything wrong. Why? What happened? What's he done now? But bad news though, Brandon. According to the FBI agency's murderers, apparently he murdered a few police officers. I'm telling you the names. One officer got shot in his head. Name is Frederick Harris. He got shot in his head bullet because his head was shot. And the other officer, but for some reason, somebody might get in him trouble. Frederick Harris was killed, but he got shot by Gary. And the other officer who heard a gunshot, opens the door, and Gary turns around and points the gun at officer. But officer name, but if you don't know the names, Brandon, the only things I can tell, Gary shot the police officer in front of a door. Well, he is in front of a door. I have to tell you, but it's not the real thing to ask, but I know things has happened, but you don't really know how this is gonna happen, but Frederick Harris was killed. Both police officers were killed. Frederick Harris and Christopher Morales. Officer Chris Morales was shot in torso, but Gary strikes the bullet in the heart of the ribs, but in his rib cage. There were just a few police officers died, but they got shot by Gary. But I'm sorry about that, Brandon, but it was terribly bad news. But Frederick Harris and Christopher Morales was killed, but they were diseased. But they're diseased though, Brandon. But yeah, well, we arrested Gary for a murderer, and he's got sentenced for the last couple of years in prison. But so basically, Gary must have done something. He found guilty for murdering two officers, Frederick Harris and Christopher Morales. But all these two police officers were shot by Gary. But I can tell he betrayed us. I have to tell you, Brandon, I know Gary betrayed us. He betrayed us. For now, Gary is not one of us. He got fired this time. So now you are a police detective. But for now, you have been replaced, Gary. Now you replace Gary, but for some reason, Gary is not one of us anymore. You're still here, but you're still working here for a lot of years. But for some reason, though, Gary isn't one of us, but Well, you know what? Christmas is over. Didn't you notice? Yeah, I know Christmas is over, but eventually, I know there's a few things, but oh yeah, you're right, Jefferson. Yeah, you're right. Gary is. I know Gary will be executed for murdering two police officers. Well, that's ashamed. But if you don't blame me, do you? But I don't think I got blamed, cause each and every people in the USA, it's not the real thing about Gary, but it tells us everything about Gary. But what things first? It doesn't really matter about Gary. But for some reason though, Jefferson, we don't think with proper respect. We're prospecting the other lands that it doesn't make everything difference to us. But what I was trying to say is, actually, I know Chris Morales was my police officer friend, but I totally miss him, And Frederick Harris and Christopher Morales, they both died. They died, They murdered. Hope Gary is a murderer, I know he betrayed you, but he betrayed us. You know what I mean? But it's weird. Jefferson, I gotta go now, but I got work to do, You stay safe, and we'll meet us again tomorrow then. Alright? Alright, well, sorry, I gotta go now, Jefferson. Take care of yourself, okay? Look after yourself and your family.